Alright, well, hello. So, you're probably watching this from the far distant future, or whenever this document gets done, because that's where the video link's going to be, or you just searched on YouTube and my video happened to come up. So, what this is, it's the technique section of my Greatsword guide that I'm writing in the document that the community is making for guides for all of the weapons to use. And I didn't want to, write out each and every technique in excruciating detail because that would take forever and it would be hard to understand. So I'm making a video for it. So this is the weapon. This is my weapon. I like this weapon a lot. I've put way too much time into it. So what you're getting is what I have. So there's stabs and there's slashes. And I personally prefer stabs, obviously, if you've ever fought me before. But slashes have their time and place as well, especially against people who are closer, because stabs are more for range and slashes are more closer. Just that's how it is. And basically, the stab is you have it wherever you want it for the basic one, and you just jam it into their face. And it does 75 damage, which is nuts for a weapon in this game. And it will do that much. That's embarrassing. I thought it did 60, but I guess not, unless I'm just tripping. Oh, that's even worse. Ignore that. And then leg stabs. I don't know why you'd ever stab someone in the legs, but you can if you want. And slashes is pretty obvious. You want to put your hands out, or whichever way you go, and you're leading with your front hand all the way around. And same with this side, you lead with your front hand and your back is your pivot point, which is the opposite of the pole arms, which I noticed while I was fighting with them, which is kind of weird, but maybe that's just the way that I prefer to use it. But I use the bottom hand as a pivot point, and the blade follows that while I lead it with my right hand. And in case you're wondering, no, it doesn't matter if you slap them in the face with the dull part or the flat end. It may look like it matters, but I swear to you, it really doesn't. Yeah, 60 to the body, same to the leg, same to the head, max damage. It does what it does. So that's about it for the basics of it. It's pretty simple. It's a sword. You just poke or slash with it. It's not hard. Let me take a look at my super discreet Google Doc that I have to my right. Yes, okay. So this is something that I like to call my signature move, and you're going to be using this a lot. Is the overhead stab. So what that essentially means is instead of just a normal stab directly to their face, which is, mind you, easily blocked by a decent opponent by just placing the sword in front of your face. But it's just better to do it this way, honestly. You have it at your hip or this hip, depending on what hand you're leading with, and you arc it up to the top of their head, similar to the one-handed sword, if you have ever seen this move done, where you just reach over and stab the top of their head. It's basically the same thing, but with two hands, and it does double damage. And it can be just as fast, especially if you start getting stupid fast with it. And you can just do that, and it's kind of retarded, if I'm being honest. That's a curse word. I didn't mean to do that, but whatever. It's kind of stupid, is what I'm trying to say. And, oh no, don't turn off. And it's off. No, it's not. Yeah, and I forgot to mention blocking. Blocking, you just harden. Put it where the person's going. Hold it as far out as you can, because the latency in the game at this moment is not the most desirable for some people with not the best internet connection. So just try and block as far out as possible. That's kind of it, mainly for blocking. I keep getting some weird sound in my headphones, and it's actually starting to creep me out. I'm not even gonna lie to anybody. But next is feints. If you were reading the thing, you'd know that this weapon is pretty feint heavy. Pretty basic one. Put it way above your head, make it super obvious. Be like, yo, I'm gonna hit you in the head right now. That's what I'm gonna do. And then what you actually do is go, ha, you've been fooled, and you slash him across the body. You sacrifice some damage, but for a guaranteed hit against less experienced opponents, it's definitely pretty easy. I did this to someone like 5 times in a row once, and they fell for it every single time. It was really cheesy, and I felt horrible, but God, I swear, I keep hearing something, and it sounds like there's another person, but I'm in a single-player game. God, this is it's tripping me out. Can't even lie to you, but yeah. Slash, or you can, I guess, you can feint body to head, but it's a little more awkward to pull off. It's not as fluid because you have to stop, because you'll swing and you'll have to stop and kind of backtrack, whereas with this, it's all one fluid motion, which is very important for this weapon. You want everything to be fluid, and you want it to flow nicely into your opponent, because then you're less predictable, and they're less likely to be able to block it because you're flowing so well. You can attack so fast, and you have a lot more mobility than you think you would for such a cumbersome weapon. But next is what I just did. I'm going to go turn the mirror on for this one. Is a through the body sort of. So your blade can pass through your body, as you can very clearly see by it going through my arm here. It can go through your body. So what you're going to use this for is surprise attack. So if I'm back here and it's straight through my chest, you don't know if I'm going to go like that. You don't know if I'm going to go around or go around again. If I'm going to, you know what I'm talking about? So it's a very good way to keep your flow. I know if I have music on, I'm flipping this around to the beat. I'm keeping myself unpredictable. No one knows where I'm going to attack. And then just suddenly you're hit for 75 damage and your health is almost all the way gone. And it's just something. I don't even know what to call it. It's really underrated, this weapon, in my opinion. You can be so fluid with it. I'm just kind of going right now. Leg sweep, back through the head slash. Back, up, head, top, like up, stab. It can all go from over the body. It's more of a flow state. It's more to keep your rhythm with the weapon, if that makes any sense to you. But on the other hand, it's also a good tool. So let's say I'm swinging your side, and I'm like, oh, just kidding. And then I'm actually going that side, but that's all kind of cumbersome. They'll be able to hit you by then. They'll know what you're doing, unless you're really fast with it. One way this... Oh, I know, that's later. But... Next, so knocking out... Oh, yeah. So, this thing is insanely good at aggressive defense. Now, you read the thing, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, what I mean is it's really good at being able to do defensive moves offensively. So he's got a sword out right now, right? Gone, and now their health is at 25. Because I hardened, swung, hit the sword, and then had an instant perfect follow-up, super high damage with that overhead stab that I was talking about earlier. Or if they come at you, just knock the weapon out before they can get to you. Or, better yet, if they charge you, just stab them before they can get to you. They won't be able to get to you if you're fast enough, because they'll start rushing you, right? And if you're back here, you're like, oh, they're rushing me. Just kidding. Now I have this much distance. Even with latency, they'll probably just barely get past the blade on the worst of internet connections if you time it well. So it's pretty foolproof. If I'm being honest, just if they come at you, try and block it, and if you can knock it out and go for that follow-up hit, because that's the easiest way to get 75 damage, besides if they don't expect you to attack, and you just put it right in their noggin. And it's a very very, very crucial thing to learn is the knock out the weapons. Especially when you're fighting a polearm. That's the only way you're going to beat a polearm is if you're able to block their attack and then go in straight after. You got to be super fast with it. Otherwise, they'll just be able to back right away from you with their faster movement speed and longer range, and you're never going to be able to hit them. So that's how you beat polearms. The only way to beat polearms. It's kind of boring, honestly, having to sit there and defend the whole time, but what are you going to do? And there is the last thing for the intermediate category is this little number that I like to call what you hold. That's not, that was stupid. It's called the handle. So basically what you have in your hands here is a one-handed sword blade that is permanently hardened and will never and can never break. So what you have, here's the side-by-side. You have the perfect defensive tool in your hand. You can whiff a hit as hard as possible, hit the floor, go straight on it, go for a stab, miss their head, hit the floor, be all embarrassed like I am every time I do that. But if they come and hit you, you can just put this wherever they're going, and it's just like you're blocking with one of those. Not even the movement's limited. No, the movement's not limited. You're literally blocking with a one-handed sword that can't break. So if you're good or coming from the one-handed sword, like Cobra was when me and him started working on this, when he started working on it, it's a very useful tool for blocking, especially if you're used to the size. Now, if you're used to this gargantuan thing poking out of the top, then maybe not. It'll take some getting used to, but if you're coming from another weapon, this is definitely something you want to get. Because then, while your weapon's regenerating, you can knock theirs out with the handle, and then just go in and easy. There's so many options with the handle blocking that I wasn't supposed to get into yet. What I was supposed to be saying is you can block with two hands. I got a little ahead of myself. You can block with two hands, knock their weapon out, do whatever you want with it. It's just if your blade is broken, you still go for the block, because most likely, if you're good enough, they'll be able to hit that, and then you can just go in, most likely, before them. Obviously, there's infinite variables. Obviously, the game is extremely in-depth. Next, start of the advanced section, and me having to scroll down, so I need to put my controller. This is the last, I think, four things. So, and then there is the stab to slash feints, and the slash to stab feints. Now, these are extremely different in the way that you have to pull them off. So a stab to slash, most of the time, is going to include only one part of their body. So if I stab their body and then go for a slash, it's probably going to go for their body. If I stab for the head and I go for a slash, it's probably going to go to their head. Obviously, you can not go for the head. You can not go for the body. You can go for the wall instead. Oh, that's what's happening. My headphone's cutting out. Okay. We're safe. You can obviously not go for the body. You got the whole shebang here, but most of the time it's just more efficient to go for that stab and then fake it. So then they'll be like, oh, I'm going to block my face. And then you're like, oh, haha, just kidding. But these are made kind of redundant by the overhead stab because they're even harder to block, faster, and do more consistent damage because it's not a slash. So you choose. It's more situational, that one, but the slash to stab, that's the one you want to be good at. That's the one where you go for the body and you just curve it around to the top of their head. It's a combination of a feint and an overhead stab, and it's very powerful. Say I go from here, and I'm like, just kidding, just 75 damage. I'll flip it through my body a couple times. I'm going this way, 75 damage. Or I hit their shoulder and it's 40, but still, that's still more than 50 damage. That's a two-shot hit. It's extremely unpredictable and extremely hard to get. Now, all of this is obviously optimal because it's on a dummy and it can't move around and block, but still, if you're unpredictable enough with your feints and your through-the-body spins, you shouldn't be getting blocked too often unless you're constantly fighting someone and they're able to read what you do. Okay, so next, Oh, okay. So next step for the through the body spins is what I like to call the reactive through the body spins. So obviously, while you're keeping your little flow state, you're missing your stuff around, you're flipping your sword through yourself, and you see someone, they're like, oh, they're charging you. My sword just happens to be down here at this moment. So what I'll do, they're charging my face, flipping it around, it happens to be over here. I'll harden it, flip up through their sword, break it, and then straight down to their head. So that's 75 damage, and they thought you were just goofing around with this whole flippy stuff. Then you knocked their thing out and went straight for a kill shot. It's quite frankly quite the movement. And I know earlier today, as an example, there was an individual that I was fighting that was extremely fast on his feet. He had a lot of play space, clearly, and he went for a head strike, but I was about this far away, flipping my blade around, and I was able to react and flip it up through his legs, I think. I think it was like something like that, and I managed to get the hit on him before he could get to me because I was able to react and I was already in motion with my attack, quotation marks, without a valve index. And because your attack is already in motion, so it comes out that much faster. Because all you have to do is just commit to hitting them, and it's overall quicker if you're flipping your weapon through your body and not keeping a consistent stance. Like, I rarely, unless I'm committed to going for a stab, am I going to sit like this, or am I going to sit like this, or like this. I'm not in a static stance. I'm normally doing this a lot. I do a sword thing, so they're like, which side, because they know I'm going to stab. It's just which side of their head am I going to hit? Because I'll be sitting like this, suddenly I'm that way. I'll be sitting like this, and I'm that way. It's unpredictable, and then when I don't want to do that, and I'm further back, then I'll be flipping my weapon through, and completely whiff the hit because they're not moving. Oh god, that's... Oh. Man, it is too late. That weapon going instant, that noise, just... Oh my god, it feels like there's someone behind me. There's something in... It's sketching me out, bro. I need to hop out of this. I'm going to finish this up quickly before I get too scared. I don't know why I'm getting scared. I'm probably going to be looking at this thinking I'm stupid in a minute, but... Oh, man. Oh, and the computer's off. Time to press space a couple of times. And type my thing in. And yeah, so... I already went over this. But the spinning through the weapons, the reactive, knocking it out to the follow-up. You know, just... I already went over that a little. And the final thing is one-handed blocking. Now, this is the most recent technique that I have incorporated into my playstyle. And it is blocking with the handle, one-handed, while my weapon's regenerating. So let's say that Butthead McGee over here is using that weapon. Just like just like a lot of the people you're going to run into and have to fight. They're going to be using that weapon. So that weapon, obviously, has a shorter recharge time. That I hit the parry point, has a shorter recharge time than my weapon does. And I hit the parry again, but you get the point. And so what they're going to do is they might, this is more of a dagger player strategy, but they might go knock your blade out without hardening, just to psych you out, and then be able to go in for a hit before your blade's reset. So what you're going to say to that is no. And you're going to take your hand off while it's regenerating and be able to block any strike that they decide to throw at you from anywhere on your body with just this one hand. Anywhere. Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter who. Over here is not very effective, obviously. This hurts to hold my hand like this. But it is what it is. And so yeah, so they're going to be like, ah ha ha, free hit. I'm going to do that overhead stab thing I constantly do, because I have a one-handed sword, and that's basically the only way to do consistent damage unless you're really good. And you're like, ha, just kidding, blocked it. Your sword's just finishing regenerating, free counter hit. So that's a very important one, once you get some hours on, once you feel extremely comfortable with everything else, I would start trying to incorporate the one-handed blocking, because it's definitely something to keep track of, having to put your hand back on and take it off and whatnot. And then there's one technique I haven't incorporated yet, so it's not on my list, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I probably will incorporate it eventually. I swear I hear footsteps somewhere. I'm so paranoid. I'm going to turn the mirror off. I bet you it's the mirror. Bonk. So, and it's when you slash, spin in the game, and spin in real life all at the same time. And it makes a extremely fast slash. But the problem is, most of the time, at the end, you end up turned around from your opponent. And if it doesn't hit, they block it somehow by some stroke of luck, because there's no way you're reacting to it. Or they don't die, you're probably going to get hit. So use it as a last move type of thing to be unexpected. So I can be like this, and they'll be like, oh, he's going to stab my head. And it's super quick, and then they're dead. Oh, it only does 30 to the endless. I should probably test this right now, actually. Yeah, that sucks. Okay, that doesn't matter. But that's just something I'm going to be working on in the future, maybe. It's very situational, just like all the other advanced techniques, except for this one-handed blocking one, but it is what it is. So that's the current Greatsword techniques that I use in a nutshell. I really hope I didn't forget one, because that would kind of suck, especially this being an educational video and all. But see what happens, and if I forget any, I'll put them under the video link in the thing that I'm doing with Thotorius and the Vibe House. So that is a big goodbye for me. And I hope that you actually stick with this weapon, because not many people do for very long. But don't let that discourage you.